Tonight on this episode, we talk to Dr. Nicole Coyle. She is the founder of NAM Arizona Center for Integrative Therapies. It is currently the only NAM center open in the U.S. There used to be 6. NAM Arizona is an alternative health and wellness center focused on helping people find solutions and permanent healing for their pain and trauma on all levels, mind, body, and spirit. She has developed a system of meditation that combines breath work, sound therapy, and dynamic, repetitive rhythmic movement called Thrive. It reprograms the brain to create new neural pathways, ultimately leading to new patterns in order to dissolve self-sabotaging patterns created through trauma. They are currently trying to completely rebrand themselves in order to make this a marketable wellness and lifestyle program that can be implemented in schools, recovery centers, veterans hospitals, therapy centers, and ultimately everyone's home. This sounds like an amazing opportunity and a great listen, so I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Dr. Nicole. So what do you do? I kind of got the gist of it, I think.
So I own a wellness center, a therapy and wellness center in Arizona. And I serve in that center as a trauma therapist and a spiritual counselor.
Okay.
And I lead this therapeutic type of meditation that's based in breath work. And it's called Thrive. And so a lot of my work centers around breath work as a therapy. But we do sound as therapy here, acupuncture, just everything that's holistic and alternative is in this joint at the moment.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And so
cool.
I'm currently trying to get all of the programs that I lead online so that they're accessible to everyone.
Gotcha.
All over the place.
Especially in these times, probably.
Yeah, which it feels dire almost, you know what I mean? Like it almost feels like, I think that's where I am every day. It's like, I don't get enough done according to me, because it's like, you need to get this out as quick as possible because like people are hurting, you know?
Oh, so, yeah. That's why. Go ahead.
Most of my clients and students they have PTSD, a lot of depression and anxiety and other mental health issues happening, some addiction recovery. So it just feels like, now more than ever, like, as quick as possible.
That's where I'm finding myself getting into that space. Not really in the same route you are with the therapeutic stuff, but I guess you could say just talking is therapy. But
absolutely.
So the fire through fog, I kind of explained it to you. One day we were just sitting there in my office and there was a fire in the back of our office, controlled one. We used to burn trash and stuff. Okay. And it was a foggy day. And I said, man, look at that fire through the fog. And Yuke and I kind of just stared at each other like, oh man, that's it. Yeah. I'm just here to get stories and raise awareness and see what kind of resources people can provide and help others get through foggy times in life.
I love it. I think it's amazing. I really do.
I appreciate it.
A lot of times people just feel like they're not heard, right? And they carry all of this emotion inside and they don't know how to release it. And sometimes just telling your story and so that the world can say it's valid and your emotions are valid. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
And nothing wrong with you for feeling all of that. And and for feeling like you want to give up on some days. You know what I mean? So
I'm a firm believer in just talking, because the last couple of people I've had on, I don't know if you know Sarah Ball, the one with, I don't know if you've listened to any of them. She's actually in the Lion's Den, but we did one strictly on suicide, because she battled it 3 times, planning it out and actually almost completing it. And she just said it's just, there's so much, if people just let it go and let it fester inside them and don't get it out, you go into these dark times where inside you want to reach out to people, but your body literally will not allow you to. And that's for us, our part, we need to be checking on our people.
Absolutely. So, and not putting it like, if you need help, reach out.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, but like definitely just reaching out, you know? So that's kind of what we do here. We teach these therapeutic tools so that if you do get in that space, you can just start to focus on your breath and kind of take yourself out of it long enough so that you can go like, I need help. Like I need to call or do this for a little longer. And so I got into it out of necessity. So
gotcha.
For myself.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
We tend to,
So When we first started talking, you said you actually had a story that you wanted to share, and you also do want to share your resource, which you've kind of already given a little. Do you want to jump into that story?
We can, if you'd like.
Yeah, of course.
My life has been, my life, it's so interesting. I just recently told, like, somebody wanted to know how I got into business for myself recently. And I was like, well, it was out of necessity, and I kind of went through my story, and they were like, are you, all of that happened? And I'm like, all of it. And like, I just think like some people have been around me for a few years now, so they see how life goes for me. It's never grace and ease. It's always like, like everything on top of me. And it's been that way since I was, 16, 17 years old. And so for me, it's about now knowing I'm onto something, when it gets that way, like, oh, okay, I'm on the right path, because here it comes. Here comes the storm. Yeah.
So I got to say something real quick. I need to start recording the video. So I don't record the video. I just do audio right now. But like your whole setup just looks very warming, I guess. The lighting, the stuff. I need to start recording.
This is the lobby of my, my studio. We have like a little retail area over here. And so this is my space. Yeah.
It looks cool.
Thanks.
So basically, I mean, what is some fog that you've went through in your life that you would like to share?
The fog that I've been through?
Yes. I was going to even say is like, I bet you, what I assume is that some of this stuff has led you to where you're at in life now with the occupation that you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. It has all brought me to exactly where I am. And I can honestly say from like a very clear standpoint, sometimes when I can get really clear, that if one thing was taken out of that story, I would not be doing the thing that I am doing today. I know it for a fact, right? It took everything happened to me in order for me to get here. Yeah.
Awesome.
And it's the reason I keep going. So
yeah. What are some biggest things you focus on with your practice?
With the breathwork practice?
Yes.
Primarily with the practice, it's used to get out emotions that we're holding on to in the body, right? The theory is that anytime something happens to you in life, whether it be perceived as negative or positive, it gets imprinted in the body, in the mind, and in the connective tissue, especially within the body, like the fascia and the ligaments. And when that happens, let's say it's negative emotion from a traumatic event, the brain then forms a pathway with the reaction that you've had in that trauma. And so then what happens is no matter what happens down the line, if you have an emotion that feels similar to the time that you experienced that trauma, the brain goes into like a card catalog and pulls out that reaction because it's your safety mechanism, right? So we try and dissolve that connection between the brain and the emotions that are stuck in the body so that a situation that you've never experienced before doesn't create a repeated reaction from a trauma space. And so especially if you don't know how to clear out your emotions, like you were saying about the person that like struggled with suicidal ideation, it's we have a tendency to hold on to everything. We feel that like if we express emotions that are negative or we're sad, or they're taken as weakness. And so from the outside world, right, it's like man up, like get it together, like move on. And it's the worst thing we can do to someone. And really a sign of strength is that you're able to express how you're feeling and what you're feeling. And so we really don't like to re-trigger trauma. That's not my thing. I don't ever really need anyone to tell me what happened to them. We just need to do some breath work. That's it. And then the breath work itself moves the emotion out of the body without you having to tell your story again. And then it just creates space
That's
in the
interesting.
heart, in the mind. Yeah, it's very interesting because in a normal session, like, because we do group sessions too, so group or individual, you'll see reactions all over the joint.
Yeah.
Some people are crying. Some people are real angry at me while we're doing it,
Is this similar to, what is that called? Like EDMR or whatever?
Oh, EMDR.
EMDR.
EMDR is eye movement desensitization, and used through a script that they go through. But you're talking in EMDR. There's like a whole dialogue that's happening. So we're not talking at all. We're literally doing
just breathing
breath work that's rhythmic. That's a certain pace. Right? Certain harmonies, certain rhythm, and a certain frequency. So we use recorded music that's recorded with compositions that are linked to the mathematical equation of the Fibonacci sequence and the golden ratio, which in music, they're considered healing pieces of music when they have that equation in the composition. So no matter if you could, we have some people that come and just lie on the floor during a group session that can't quite manage the breath today, right? It just feels overwhelming. It feels like it's too much. They don't want to have that reaction come up in them. And so I tell them all it's better to be here than not be here. And so they just come and lie on the floor because the music itself is healing. It's working out emotional junk already without us even having to do the breath work.
Is that similar to meditation, or is this more of a structured?
This is considered meditation. It's considered therapeutic meditation.
Meditation.
So meditation can be anything that creates peace or a sense of calm in the body and a sense of focus in the mind. So if you liked to vacuum your house, right, and that did it for you, that would be your meditation, because not all meditation is sitting silently and trying to clear your mind. It's impossible for most people to clear your mind. First of all, it's never going to happen. The mind is always speaking. But what we're trying to do is not pay attention to the thoughts or the words in our mind, and try and focus on the present moment. So if the mind is very active and there's lots of chatter in it, using your breath and counting your breath quiets the mind automatically. So breath meditation is focusing on the breath, the inhalation and the exhalation, and counting at the same time, right? So, or keeping a certain pace with your breath to create a specific reaction in the body.
So box breathing would be something kind of therapeutic.
Box breathing is definitely a breath that we use. Absolutely. If you were in the military, y'all know box breathing because it's used highly, very frequently in the military. Box breathing is one of those. It's to create focus and clarity and get your nervous system kind of at a neutral state. Box breathing. There's also there's something called buzzing bee breath, which we use a lot, which is taking a deep inhale, and then on the exhale, you're just humming for as long as you can until you run out of breath. And its purpose is to create white noise in the mind, right? So you're just inhaling and then as long as you can hold your breath. And then you do it again for about up to 3 minutes. And it's used to calm the nervous system down. It's used to take you out of fight or flight. And it can literally, within the first 30 seconds, switch you into that parasympathetic nervous system state, which is that rest and restore nervous system state, just by humming.
That's interesting. I've never been a person to meditate or breathe, but ever since joining the Lion's Den and learning about the meditation, I can definitely tell a difference. And I can definitely tell when I haven't done it one day, I just feel off. But the moment I sit there and do a quick, 5 breaths or whatever it is, it's insane. I think it's because whenever I did do it, I get lightheaded and I didn't feel right. So I just wouldn't do it anymore. It just, I was like, it's not doing anything for me. But now that I've kind of looked past that, it's definitely helped a lot.
Are you still getting lightheaded from it?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's normal, just so you know, right?
Yeah.
So when you consciously breathe, not like automatic breathing, like when we're walking out in the world, but when we consciously breathe, we're taking deeper inhales and longer exhales. And when we do that, we're taking in a greater amount of oxygen at the moment than we do probably in 8 breaths in a normal, walking around town, right? And so then when we exhale for an extended period of time, you're letting go of toxins out of the blood. You're letting go of stuck, stagnant emotion. And then after that exhale, when you inhale again, you're taking in even more oxygen. And what we call in like the meditative world is prana, Prana, which is life force, right? There's life force in the breath, in the oxygen that you take in. But most times people aren't consciously breathing. And so they're just going, it's happening automatically, thank God. I think otherwise 99.9% of people would die in the first minute that they had to remember to breathe, because when we're stressed out, we don't remember how to breathe. It happens, thank God, And so conscious breathing just floods your blood with oxygen. And when that happens, there's more oxygen going to the brain and you feel lightheaded. It's completely normal.
I actually had that. It was yesterday or today. A coworker said they forget to breathe sometimes, I guess, when they kind of get stressed and stuff. And
people hold their breath.
Yeah. I didn't know that was really a thing, or maybe I do it and didn't notice it.
Oh, I think everybody does it and they don't know, right? As soon as your body or your brain interprets you in a state of stress, stress is interpreted by the brain as you being in danger. And that's your fight or flight nervous system. When that happens, you either breathe very, very quickly, like take too many shallow breaths, or you hold your breath because there's a primitive part of your brain, right? The amygdala. And that part is still the part that, was in the brains of cavemen, telling them that they need to run from dinosaurs, right? It's your safety mechanism. So when you get scared or have stress, you hold your breath because that like primitive part is like, don't move, they won't see us, right? And so it still happens today. We hold our breath when we get too stressed out, too much anxiety in the body. It happens. You can see it like in a group of people, especially when we do a class, that we can say, I look around and I'm like, breathe, like no one's breathing. Like they're just, they have this look on their face. It's like, you have to remember to breathe, It's the quickest way to get out of a state of stress is to take 3 deep inhales and 3 long exhales. In 3 breaths, you switch your nervous system. That's crazy. All it takes.
And it's as simple as just telling someone to just breathe.
Breathe deeply.
Yeah, breathe deeply.
Right? Like take a deep breath, as much air as you can take in, because then that is telling your body and your brain that you're okay.
Yeah.
And that's all it takes. But like how often we forget to take a deep breath, especially when we're, in an anxiety attack or panic or stressed out completely.
Yeah. I definitely can see it and feel it when I catch myself. And that's the thing. You got to catch yourself, or someone's got to help you.
You catch yourself.
Yeah. You got to catch yourself, or have someone there to catch you.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Absolutely. So it's just teaching people how to be aware of what's happening in their body. And the quickest way to figure out if you're in a state of stress is to pay attention to your breath, right? If you're taking more than 12 breaths a minute, you're in a state of stress.
Huh.
So
you kind of want to
put your timer.
Yeah. So do you teach them how to notice the signs of it, like coming, like a panic or anxiety attack coming? Like this is when you need to stop.
Right. So if you're having anxiety or high levels of stress, first thing your brain is going to do is dump cortisol into your body, right? It's releasing cortisol. It will create this nauseous feeling in your belly, which most people interpret as butterflies when they're anxious or stressed out, but that's cortisol being dumped into your body. Okay, so at that moment, as soon as the cortisol comes out of the brain, the heart starts racing. So that's the other one, right? You can't take a deep breath. Just say, like, you can say to yourself, can I take a deep breath? And most of the time you won't be able to breathe deeply in a state of panic. And so it's also then like, if you want to time it, look at put a timer on your phone and see how many times you breathe in 1 minute, how many full breaths you take in 1 minute, and anything over 12 is a state of stress. And most humans on a day-to-day basis breathe between 12 and 20 times a minute, just living life.
Wow.
Because we're always going, we're always stressed out. There's so much coming at us at one time, right? Like through the phone, through the television, people's reactions around us. And so it creates all of this stress, and we've learned to live in a constant state of stress.
Yeah, I just posted something before we got on here because I caught myself getting caught up in the whole stuff going on in the world. And I just had to stop. I stopped myself, and then I just posted something on Facebook just to help someone else out, just telling people to stop now, take a breath, and think about the stuff, do the stuff that you can control, what you eat, what you think, what you say, what you do. Like,
exactly.
And it helped me. Yeah. I mean, this path I'm on, and just these stories I hear and playing them in my head saying, I got to stop feeling sorry for myself. I got to focus on me and what I can control has really helped me already. And I really hope it's helping others.
Yeah, I just saw your post. It was a great post, actually.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's needed, right? Like, because it's so easy to go down the rabbit hole now.
Yes.
There's so many different paths down the rabbit hole too. There's like 4 or 5 at any time. I mean, like choose, you know? And, but what, like you said, we can only control what's in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, we have the ability to create life the way we want it to be in our immediate surroundings. It's really up to us. What's happening in the rest of the world, we should be aware of. But at the moment, we can't do much about it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's out of my control. Not that I can't have empathy and compassion for it and do my part. But doing my part is ensuring everybody around me is okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if they're not okay and they're not dealing well emotionally, how can I help them?
Yeah.
That's how I take care of that part of the world. But just like everybody else, you know, I catch myself like you going straight down it and getting upset and angry and, you know, the whole 9 yards. And then me going, turn your phone off right now. Like literally disconnect from it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So how do you, when you catch yourself in those moments, and you just said that you got to worry about other people and all these other people you're helping, what if you get in a moment? What do you do usually?
If I get into a moment, which I was in a whole day of moments yesterday, so that's the truth, you know, I was in a whole day of moments yesterday because I got overwhelmed. I deal with a lot of veterans. And so I was getting called left, right, and center for vets who weren't doing well yesterday because of things that were happening in the world.
Yeah.
And I, you know, was doing my best to help them and get them on track. And I just got off the phone with one of them and I lost it. Like I lost it emotionally. I was just like overwhelmed completely with feeling what they must all be feeling like. And am I making a difference? Am I making a dent? Because I just kept getting calls. And so, you know, at that point, for me, it's very important that I feel my feelings. So I don't ever push anything down or hide it under a rug, you know? So I allow myself to cry or scream or yell or get frustrated. And then as soon as I do that, I go, okay, like now what can I do? Right? Like I can sit in the feeling all day long, but that's not going to help me. Yes, let it out, move through it, but then figure out a solution. So I do breath work, to be very, very honest with you. I do the same thing I teach because it works for me. It's why I teach it, right? It came out of necessity for me. I teach it because I used it for a really long time as a therapeutic device. I have, you know, I was diagnosed with depression at a really young age as a teenager, and I've battled with it my whole life. And I decided at one point in my life, I did not want to be on medication anymore. It just made me feel like garbage. It's for me, you know. So I set out on this path to try and find tools that would help me be able to manage that state, get out of it quicker, and not have to rely on medication to balance my brain and you know, balance the, you know, chemical dumps that were coming out of it. And so I just stumbled. A friend took me to a class. It was based in breath work. And from there, I just started going down that rabbit hole. And I met a teacher at one point in my life about 20 years ago. And he was a doctor. And I just said, like, I'm on this, this, and this. And I was very depressed in my early 20s. And I was like, I can't be like this. It's not a way to live, you know? And he's like, give me 6 months, but you have to replace your medication with this practice. And so we got weaned off. And then I did this particular breath practice and it worked. It was like, wasn't depressed. I didn't have an episode. I had to do it every day. Right. So I still have to do it every day. And I still can go down a rabbit hole and get depressed. If that happens, like yesterday, I was just really sad. There's just specific breath work exercises now I know that can switch me instantaneously. The easiest one is to smile. I know it sounds so like it can't be that easy, but the last thing you want to do when you're sad or angry or depressed is smile.
Well, your shirt says it. Moment,
what's that?
Your shirt says it.
Which is, by the way, I have this shirt in every color.
That's awesome.
And I wear a version of it every day because it's just a reminder, right? It literally is. Some days, Kelby, I'm going like this. Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm looking down at the shirt. But when you smile, the brain doesn't know if it's genuine or not at all. It only knows that as soon as the corners of your mouth go up, it interprets that as you being in a state of joy somehow. Because of that, it releases the happiness hormones out of the brain, the oxytocin, the dopamine, and the serotonin, which eat stress hormones, right? And it will stop a panic attack like within the first minute. So all we need to do is smile and take some deep breaths and go, okay. But when you're down, that's the last thing you want to do, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't want to smile, like find something to be happy about. Like I feel like crap, you know? And so sometimes I tell my students, you don't want to fake it. I get it. Put a pencil between your teeth and grit it because it creates that same response without having to smile or force it.
But you still get to bite down on the pencil.
Gonna bite down on a pencil and the corners of the mouth go up. We get the same effect from our brain because it doesn't know we're faking it. It's like biohacking your brain.
That's crazy.
Like biohacking your body. And it works.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, smile, find something. It's either that or my go-to is as soon as I get like that list 3 to 5 things that I'm grateful for, literally immediately find 3 to 5 things that you're grateful for right now in this moment, even though you want to like crawl under all the covers and go down into a hole.
Yeah.
Something, you have to be grateful for something. And the quickest one is I'm alive, Yeah. I have another day. But they're easy. And it seems so like when we speak about it seems like, well, that's so easy. It doesn't work. But when you're in the state of panic or depression, or the last thing you want to do is think of anything that's happy or that you're grateful for, because those chemicals are very strong,
And
the
like
chemicals that get released from the brain.
And like you said, these are practices. And I think the more practices or tools you put in your toolbox, this is going to allow you to stay out of those spaces, out of that window less. Like that's the whole goal, is to stay out of that as much as possible. Like if I used to sit there and if I get down or something, I'd ruin a whole day. I would sit there on the couch. Yeah. I would lay on the couch. I would push away my kids, my wife. I'd be a complete jerk. But now that I'm supplying my tool chest or whatever you want to call it with these practices and meditation and breathing, like I can tell I'm spending less time in those moments.
Absolutely. And, no matter how good we get at some of the practices that we choose to incorporate into our life to help us maintain emotional balance, we're still human. We're still going to have a bad day. We're still going to have a moment that gets under our skin. We're still going to be reactive. We're still going to be sad. We're going to be all of the emotions that are given to a human. But like you said, do I want to live there? Right? Or can I move through it like with grace and ease? And every time it happens, I, like you say, spend less and less time in that reactivity. That's the goal. I had a teacher that once said, the birds of challenge fly over everyone's head, but the goal of life is to not let them make a nest in your hair. Right? Like you don't want to live with that.
Yeah.
You just want it to fly over and then go away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then that kind of leads me back to what you were saying earlier. You guys practice, you don't really have people tell their stories. You were saying am I correct?
Yeah.
So, I'm a firm believer of vulnerability. Sorry, go ahead.
They don't need to. They are more than welcome to. It's a safe space. Everything here is held in love, compassion, and confidence. And if they feel like they need to speak it, it's absolutely the space for it.
So what I'm wondering is, so vulnerability is a big thing for me that people see as a sign of weakness, or it's it's weak. Being vulnerable is being weak. And I do not believe that at all. I feel like talking and open yourself up is the best thing you could possibly do. Because when you keep that inside your body, it's just going to keep building on. Then you're going to start overthinking it and start regretting this. What could I have done better? What could I have done different? Could I have helped them get out of this so they didn't commit suicide or something like that?
Right.
It's just crazy. And so would you say what you guys do, the breathing and stuff, is a form of vulnerability as well? Because you say they also don't have to tell their story like verbally,
right?
But is it a way for them to, like, I don't know, mentally let that escape?
Yes, absolutely. Because every person that's ever walked through my door, some people have been with me for years, they come to group classes, but like we say every class, if there's new people, every emotion that comes up out of you is allowed here, no matter what, right? You will try to stuff it down because you're in a group of people, right? And in order to show that emotion, you have to be vulnerable. You have to be okay crying or getting angry or whatever it is, because there are other people in the room. But what you should know is that every single one of us, me included, goes through it every week at some point in our practice. It comes up. That is vulnerability, right? Being allowed. We hold space for your emotions without judgment, without pointing finger. Nobody's even paying attention, to be quite honest with you, because we've all been through it, and maybe they'll be in it tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? But yes. So for me, that is vulnerable, because how many times are you told, like, nope, you know what I mean? Don't show it, hold it.
Yeah. Man up.
So and what happens more than not is that, man up, right? Like, get it together, man up. Which is, like, for me, I grew up in a house where my father never said that to my brother, ever, ever, ever. And I can't imagine being told that. Do you know what I mean? Like, that for me seems like the worst thing you could do to a person.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't understand.
It's a terrible stigma.
It's a horrible stigma. So what we're trying to do here is to break that, right? Like, all of your emotions are welcome. Every one of them is valid. We're not judging you, right? And for me, that's the biggest sign of strength, is if you can let it out here in front of all of us. Huge, huge amount of strength. Takes an incredible amount of bravery. Yeah.
On the contrary to the man up statement, I think when people say that statement, it's like, man up, men don't cry, this and that. Like, I think on the contrary, a real man they will show their emotions when they need to, when the right time is there. But they should, as a man, protect. And I mean, I follow Order of Man. I don't know if you know Ryan Mickler.
I love him.
Yeah.
Ryan.
So awesome. Yeah. I've been following him since he started back in 2015. So I love that protect, provide, preside. And absolutely, I completely agree with all of that. There are some things that it's like, okay, maybe it's a little much, but oh well. Like, I agree with the majority of what you're saying. But yes, like the whole man up statements, the whole, like, literally, men should not cry. Men should not be vulnerable. Anything. Yeah.
Right.
So, and that's where you see most suicides come from, as men.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because they're told those statements, right? Or that it makes them look, less of a man, but like, that's crazy talk. You know what I mean? At your core, right? Men are protectors and providers. You're wired that way.
Oh yeah.
Right. But you're also wired, like, if somebody hurt somebody that you love, you're also wired as a human. Do you know what I mean? Like, an emotional reaction would be normal, to be sad or to be upset, or, I just somehow, I think we went so far on the other side with it, where it was like, you always have to be stoic. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, just constantly stoic. And it's like, no, there's a time and a place for the stoicism. There's a time and a place for warrior mode, but there's also a time and a place for you to be loving and compassionate and open and vulnerable. If you're constantly like, and you're with your spouse or your significant other, that can be off-putting sometimes, because there's nowhere for me to come in as a female with all of her emotions. You know what I mean? We're the total opposite of you guys. There's a lot of emotion. And so where do they fit in the life with a man if the man is so like not letting me in? Energetically it feels closed. Energetically it doesn't feel safe then, as a woman.
And
but yeah,
I tell all men that I know or come across, I'm like, I think it's a requirement because I had a daughter on our third child. I tell people, guys, like, hey, it's a requirement. You need to have a daughter because it's going to take you, it is going to bring you back down to earth.
Absolutely. We are just different creatures, for like all of the emotions that you guys don't show. We just show it 1,000 times. We have not been taught that way. We've been taught that like we're unmanageable.
Yeah.
That's like the women's stigma, where we're crazy, but it's just being human, but there's a balance in that being human, right? And
the balance is working with each other, like in marriage or anything. I mean, there's pros and cons to everything, but when you come together and work together, it balances it out, like you're saying.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so we're just trying to teach people how to find balance, as as esoteric as that sounds, but there really is a way to live a balanced life and to be conscious of everything that you do and think and speak, anything that you consume. And I mean, for me, the most fundamental thing that we do is breathe, right? That's the first thing we did when we came into existence as humans, is we took a breath. And so for me, that is the key to getting back to balance, is like learning how to breathe properly. And, so yeah, I've just kind of dedicated my life to breath work.
That's awesome.
Which is interesting.
It's really cool. Like I've learned so much in 40 minutes. But what I did want to ask, so you said we're talking about balance. When you have these therapeutic sessions, someone comes in just either all the way on the sad spectrum or all the way on the mad spectrum. Do you see them start to balance out as they do these sessions? Like you start seeing all of these motions come out of them?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I always tell people, I know we all want a quick fix, but we have to understand, like, let's say you're dealing with PTSD from a very traumatic event. You have to understand that traumatic event has done a number and has rewired your brain somehow, right? So we have to figure out how to unravel that. It's just going to take us a little time, and it's going to take like being consistent with it for a little while. It's not an instant, like overnight thing. You will feel better in one session, but I think that's the key, right? You'll feel better. So it gives you an instant like gratification, like, oh, this is possible. But it's not going to stick after one session, Again, we're trying to recreate patterns in the brain. We're trying to rewire the brain. That is exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, because
the breath.
It seems that if someone is all the way is like happy, but inside they have a pathway of just anger or sadness. Like it's like after one session, they're going to get that quick fix, but then they're always going to revert back to the emotion that they were. It's interesting. Like I'm thinking through all these things and learning so much.
So what we're trying to do is whatever was, let's just say anger is your issue, right? We need to figure out how or what caused you to be that angry, right? And again, you can share your story or not share your story. But for me, when you come and see me, the first breath you take will tell me everything. Like I'm just going to say, take a breath, and I'm going to look at you. Tells me everything.
Wow.
Tells me where the emotion's held in your body, because your shoulders do certain things, your chest does a certain thing. The way people sit tells me a million things. And so I can like make up a story somewhat in my head about like where I think it's being held in the body. Right. So all I need to do is then like kind of work backwards from that. Okay. So like if they're holding all their tension up in the shoulders, that's where I'm going to start. But that's just where it's showing up, right? Like that isn't where the root cause is. The root cause is somewhere else in the body. The physical symptom for us is always the last place that an emotional problem shows up in. And the only reason it shows up in your physical body is so that you pay attention to it. That's why people have heart disease and lung issues and lower back pain. And that is a symptom. So my job is to find the root cause of that symptom, right? So when I find the root cause, then you won't get angry again so easily, like you always do. Like that's your MO reaction, right? And like you say, people do things for a little while and then they go back to their anger pattern. I'm trying to break the pattern, but that means that we have to find the root cause. It's like let's just say in modern medicine, right? In Western medicine, our Western doctors, their solution for things is to write you a prescription for something, right? But that prescription, that drug is treating the symptom, only the symptom. It isn't trying to figure out what created that symptom, like truly, truly, truly. And so we say, especially in the alternative holistic world, the medicine is necessary because it buys you time so that we can figure out where the root cause is. When I can figure out where the root cause is, then that problem goes away. It's not a problem anymore because we've addressed it at its beginning point. Right. So that's what integrative medicine is. That's what holistic medicine is it's trying to treat body, mind, and spirit all at once. And the theory is that it started as an emotional problem and it created a mental problem and then it created a physical problem. So like, how do we get to that? So,
wow, that's so interesting. It's crazy to break it down and honestly helps me even more. So,
yeah. So I had a teacher once say to me, it was similar, like if you see a tree outside and there's one branch that's dying, on a tree. We've all seen that. He said, what do? We cut the branch off. But he said the poison's in the root system. It got to the branch through the root system. So if we cut the branch off, the poison's still in the tree. It's going to find another branch. So we have to treat the roots and get rid of the poison in the root system. It doesn't go to the rest of the tree. The same, right? It's the same in us. Yeah.
Wow. So unless you have anything else, I'll ask my final question that you want to add. So
I'm good.
All right. And this was all great, but with Fire Through Fog, my first question was, what is it to you to be a fire through a foggy time? But that was kind of a broad question. So we broke it down. What advice would you give to someone to help themselves build their internal fire to get through a foggy time in their life?
So my perspective on that is whatever fog you're coming up against, I try to remind people that all of the fog that came before that, you've survived. You're here. You have walked through, right? It doesn't mean that this one is going to be less intense. It's just that you've overcome everything that was in front of you that you thought was insurmountable. You did it. And what if every incident that was considered foggy was put on your path to create more strength in you, to create more fire in you, to be able to keep walking through with grace and ease, right? To know that no matter what's in front of you, you have your own strength. You have, whether you're a person, whatever you believe in. But for me, it's that I'm never alone, right? God's always with me. And for me, I kind of come to believe that God only gives his greatest battles to his greatest warriors. And so I've kind of needed to look at my life that way. It has not been easy. It has been just strewn with struggle and some very traumatic. But what I do know is every time I overcame that, I got stronger. I got better boundaries, right? I didn't get myself in a reactive situation that took myself down. It's no, remember the last time? Oh, right. You're here. You overcame that. You thought it was impossible, but you're here. So for me, I just try to remember that I've walked through everything. I'm still here.
Yeah.
And now I think when I need to kind of fuel my fire, for me, it's a reminder that my story, my actual story, can save somebody's life if I choose to share it. if I choose to put it out there so that it can become a like beacon of hope for someone, so that they don't think that they're the only one going through trauma or struggle or things that seem like it's going to kill them. Like, I just think what you're doing, like putting people's stories out there so that other people can understand that we all go through something. Like, what's in the package is struggle and upset and challenge and storm and trial, right? The paper on the outside looks different for each of us, but the emotions and the fog is still, the feeling of it is still heavy. It's still daunting,
Yeah.
But the paper that it's wrapped in is different for each of us. But there isn't a person on this earth who doesn't go through it. There's no one that's immune.
Yeah. I'm glad I'm not the only one that sees that.
I don't know. I just think, no. I have never met a person, even the, everybody says like, even the wealthiest of people have issues and struggle, and, life isn't easy.
Yeah.
Somebody's always going to have to go through something. It's just what we do with it. And how can we use it to better our life instead of having it become a defining moment of our life. Our moment is not defined by our struggle. What we define ourselves by is how we got back up, how we kept walking forward. That defines us. You can stay down for as long as you need. Just don't live there. Don't stay flat on the floor. Get up.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And
take your time. Yeah.
From the people that we've already connected with, other people, we're finding that another outlet is that it's easier to talk to someone who has experienced something similar or is going through something similar.
Absolutely.
Because as humans, we want to help. We think we can help, and we think we can say the right thing, or we thought we said the right thing, but you really didn't. Unless you can hook them up with someone that's going through it and understands the emotions, like you're saying, it'll be easier. The process, the recovery could be quicker. Not guaranteeing that, but I'm almost going to put a guarantee like on a box for Fire Through Fog that is what we want to do.
Absolutely. So like I work sometimes with addiction and recovery or sexual trauma, because both of those things were in my own life. I'm more relatable to them. They trust me off the bat because I walked through it already. Do you know what I'm saying? So like, you're exactly right in what you're trying to do. You're trying to pair people that have similar experiences or similar trauma. And that is like a bonding experience almost. Like, I can understand you. Oh, you understand me then, instead of like going to school. Now, there's nothing wrong with it and becoming a counselor, but never having walked through any of the issues that you're dealing with. That seems, this becomes more.
This really helps clear things up for us, is just hearing people kind of confirm what we're doing is there. You have all the emotion or the motivational and the resources out there. You can find hundreds of thousands of them. They can come talk to you. Hey, how can I breathe better? You'll be able to help them easily. But I think we're missing. I haven't really found anybody. Like, you can hear traumatic stories out there. You'll come across them on YouTube or anywhere. But the point here is that I'm trying to get as many as possible in one area, make a network of identifying before we, like you said, we're identifying the roots, allow people to become vulnerable and communicate and work with each other and build this fire. Because right now they're not a fire. They don't have a fire. They're ashes. But if we can come together and we can identify the roots and then get your story out there, have you tell it, and just start bringing you together with people who are going through the similar pain, then we can start providing you with these resources, and you guys can start just building a fire off each other. I'm really starting to dial in exactly what we are, and the help of people like you and all these previous people I've had on, and then the Lion's Den has just really helped out a lot.
I think it's incredible.
Well, I appreciate
like you said, that. Yeah, because then they see that somebody walked through it and then overcame it too. Sees them on the other side of it.
Yeah.
Maybe maybe that was the thing, that horrific experience was the thing that created the fuel. But like, screw this, I'm not staying down. I'm creating a better life for myself. You know what I mean? So you never know what's going to happen from hearing somebody's story. I think that just hearing a story every once in a while saves lives. I really do. I think that person that's contemplating like maybe ending their life here's a story that somebody went through something similar, and they're like, okay, like there is hope. Like I can do something about this, or there's somebody out there that will know how to help me. Because I think sometimes we don't reach out for help because we think we're burdening other people. Yeah. And we think that they won't want to listen or hear my sad story. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but no, like, I'm just pumped because you just said something else. It's like I said, this just keeps building. And I appreciate this. You said someone else's story, if someone's down, their ashes, whatever, but they have a little spark left. If they hear this one story of how they got through it, that's fuel. Like you could literally throw that on a little and it's going to explode. Yep. And that it will be temporary. It will be temporary because they're still down in those emotions. They're still down in those feelings. But that little kickstart, that little jump start could really help.
Absolutely. Because at least it gets them out of it for a moment. Do you know what I mean? At least they have enough energy to get up. Yeah. Even if it's not, I tell everybody, put one toe in the water. It doesn't have to be the whole foot. Put the big toe in first. You know what I mean? Like just get it wet. Yeah. And then we'll work on how do we get up from there. But you've got to at least try, move, something has to move. And you just never know what it's going to be. I love it. I think like what you guys are doing is incredible. I don't know another podcast that their stories.
I appreciate it.
Like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. I don't.
And there may be.
You guys are it, maybe.
There may be, but maybe that's why, because I'm telling people, I feel like I know what it means to find your purpose, to be honest with you. Like I'm passionate about it. Every time I feel that I'm not doing anything, I feel like I'm wasting my time. Someone will send me a message right at that moment saying, hey man, I love what you're doing with this podcast and everything. And then I'm just instantly back right on it. Yeah. So it's like God's telling me, nope, you're not done.
That's it. Those are what I call God sparks. Yeah. That's God kicking you right in the ass. Yeah. Every single time you go like this. I do it like weekly. What the hell am I doing this for? Yeah. You know what I mean? And then like I'll get an email. And I'm like, okay, thank you. Because like he knows, like I need something, because otherwise I'm gonna find 1,000 excuses not to keep going. Exactly. And those are God sparks. Yeah. I love them.
I like that. I like that. God sparks. I really do.
See, that's just God putting the spark in your fire. That's all.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Today I'm just like, man, I wasn't dreading getting on here, but I haven't been in it as much as I have been lately. So I kind of start fading. And then I was like, I'm just going to message Dr. Nicole and ask her if she's still on for tonight. And your little response was just yes with explanation. I was like, all right, let's go. I don't know, just something that little.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Awesome.
Yeah, sometimes ready's one word.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just confirmation. Sometimes we just need confirmation externally outside of our own brain and heart, to say that we're on the right path. Even though we know it's our purpose, even though like we know it's what we should be doing, like, okay, I need something to tell me that this is it, and it always happens. Like they always, right? Something always comes in, a message, an email, something.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this was an absolute amazing conversation.
Yeah, I think, I've read your post. You have a lot to say.
I appreciate it.
You have things to say that will help somebody. I just think keep being yourself and keep being authentic and keep doing it for the reason that's in your heart. And you can't fail. That's my thing. You can't fail if you're doing what's in your heart. That purpose that you were created for,
Exactly. Just ship it, like Sean says.
Ship it. That's right. Yeah. He's a trip. Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah.
There's some people with crazy stories around that have just created these lives for themselves. And sometimes I hear them and I was like, how the hell are they here now from that? You know what I mean? Like literally from the depths of hell, some of them, and God love them for putting it out there and trying to help everybody do the same thing, like you.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm trying to do what I can, and I feel that I'm on the path. And hopefully we can do a part 2 with you, and get, if you want to ever tell your foggy stories. I know you mentioned that, so yeah, we can
I'd love to
set that up sometime.
Yeah.
But no, I definitely
story. It's like the story. It just started at 17, and hopefully it can help somebody. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we'll get that set up soon. And again, I've learned so much tonight, and I really appreciate your time.
My pleasure, Kelby. My pleasure. Thank you for everything you're doing. Thank you for your patience.
Of course. Thank you for yours too. It went both ways. Hey, you have a wonderful evening.
Yeah. You too, my love. Sleep well.
You do the same.
Bye.
Bye. I hope everybody gained a lot of knowledge from that episode. There was a lot of stuff in there that could help anyone. Understanding how the neural pathways work in your mind, and how breathing, different types of breathing, can change up anything for you at the drop of a pen. Take some of those nuggets, and just the biggest ones is just smile and deep breaths. That's how you can start. Dr. Nicole said it in the conversation. Just smile and take deep breaths. Smiling is contagious, so spread it. You can reach out to Dr. Nicole, myself, Uke, Fire Through Fog, if you have any more questions, concerns, or anything like that. But I hope everybody enjoyed the conversation.